Welcome to Nutty Buddy Sports. The Cincinnati Bengals versus the Tennessee Titans. The Great.
Okay, so the first game, as mentioned, we're going to break down is the Bengals versus the Titans, and we'll first get everyone's great, or, it could be the exact same one I had as well. I don't know if you looked at the notes, but maybe I'll let Zach go last here because I'm sure not a lot was great for the game for him. Maybe I'll start with Shannon. Shannon, what would you say was the grade of this game for you?
I'd agree with you as far as being Evan Mcpherson at the top. But I also have to I think Jamar Chase was great. He put on a show. He definitely is a true stud wide receiver. It was good to see him have a good game too.
Yeah, he was really good. How about you, Nate?
Yeah, Evan Mcpherson, but not for the reason that he made 4 for 4. His attitude. Walking onto the field, supposedly he tells everybody, well, we're going to the AFC Championship game. And then if you watch the play, he kicks that last 52-yarder, and it's not even halfway there, and he's hugging his holder. So just the confidence on a rookie kicker I thought was awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing. I put that quote in my notes. He says, looks like we're going to the AFC Championship. Apparently he said that to the backup quarterback, Brandon Allen. I'm just like, wow, what swagger. Like he's ready to go. Jake, what was your grade?
I'm going to go, despite the result, the Titans defense, 9 sacks. 9 sacks. I don't know, what else to say other than 9 sacks. Only let the Cincinnati score 1 single touchdown for the whole game, and forced Evan McPherson to, just have to continue to kick field goals. So yeah, I would say the Titans defense, unfortunately, being that they lost, you wouldn't usually pick that defense, but they handled their side of the ball pretty well.
Yeah, considering too the situation in which the offense put that defense in. Yeah, they did very well. Zach, what was your grade in this game?
Yeah, I was kind of along the same lines. That defense they played really well against an offensive line that apparently has not been good all year long. But the great part about it is that Joe Burrow's team still won. So it's good and great for them. I mean, despite getting a record 9 sacks in a game against them, they still were able to win the game. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, mine was McPherson as well. He was 4 for 4, 54, and then a 54-yarder he had in there, and then the 52 game winner. So yeah. Let's move on to the good then. And any other grades for you guys? We good? Okay, let's go to the good then for us here.
The Good.
That's okay. That's good. That's all right. That's okay. Okay, so I'll start with mine because it's already been mentioned. I said the defensive line for the Titans I had as the good. Jeffrey Simmons was a beast. He had 8 total tackles, 3 for a loss, 3 QB hits, and I think 3 sacks. He was an absolute monster in this game, and the only reason why I had it on the good and not great was because of the fact that they lost. So even though it was still great that they did that, seemed like it wasted it, or for nothing, almost. How about let's start with this time. Let's start with Shannon. What was your good?
I would have to say Joe Burrow. I believe I'm just looking at his stats here. He didn't have any touchdowns, but it's just he had 1 interception, but I thought he played good. You can tell that just by watching the game that he is definitely a franchise quarterback. The other good I had was AJ Brown for the Titans. He was, I think, the main guy on the offensive side of the ball for the Titans. So those were my goods of the game.
Yeah, I agree with you on Burrow. He was under pressure and duress all game. So the fact he only threw one interception, that's pretty good for a rookie QB, in my opinion. But how about you, Nate? What was your good?
My good was the Bengals defense. I thought they played really good. I mean, they held the Titans to 1 and 9 on 3rd and 4th downs. They had the 3 interceptions. They started the game right off first play with an interception. Henry, I thought, would run all over him. They held him to only 62 yards. So overall, I thought they were pretty solid.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah, I like the Bengals defense. They played good as well. Zach, what about you? What was your good?
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines as those guys. Both defenses seem to play pretty good on both sides, getting turnovers, stopping the Titans on 3rd down. Getting all those sacks against Cincinnati, maybe not as uncommon as we think. So I'm a little worried for them coming up against the Chiefs. But either way, for me, it was good to watch two teams play really good defense against each other when they both could have the potential for high power, a lot of scoring. It was a good defensive battle on both sides, which was fun to watch.
Yeah. How about you, Jake?
I'm going to kind of flip-flop it a little bit and go with Evan McPherson. I think was good. I mean, he went 4 for 4, obviously game winner, all the pressure, but at the same time, that's your job. High five. You did your job, but it was good. And I think it's a good bad, because if the good is your kicker, like, what did the rest of your team do? So
yeah.
That's my backhanded compliment of the kicker being the good.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, if your kicker is the best part of your team, like, your offense isn't maybe doing as good as it should be doing. The offensive line for the Bengals was not good at all. It's funny because one of the keys to this game, I said that it would be the trenches. Like, I felt like the trenches were going to win the game. The X factor would be. And I still felt like the Titans kind of dominated the trenches, but they couldn't overcome the mistakes that were made. I think that's really what happened. Okay, you guys ready to move on to the bad?
Do it.
The bad.
Okay, so let's start with Shannon this time. Shannon, what was your bad of the game?
Well, I was close to putting this in the ugly, and that would have been the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line. When you allow 9 sacks, you can't put all the blame on Joe Burrow holding the ball too long. They couldn't stop anybody. It came from all over the place. So that's my bad, is the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line.
Yeah, that's a real good one, actually. Yeah, that's excellent. Nate?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Shannon. Their pass protection was horrendous, and that is going to be trouble for them against the Chiefs. We'll talk about it later, but I just watching how Ingram and the rest of that line was rushing against the Bills. They better sure things up, otherwise Burrow's in for a long day.
Yeah, and I don't think the defense is going to hold Mahomes to 19 points the way that he's playing right now. So yeah, that's a good point. Jake?
I'd hate to jump on the bandwagon, but the same thing, the Bengals offensive line, but I'm also going to asterisk that with the offensive coordinator and head coach calling. Because after sack number, 5, like 2 tight ends, chipping, bring the water cooler out there, the tackling, everything you put on your offensive line, because you're going to get Joe Burrow killed and not going to win the football game. So yes, the O-line was bad, but the fact that they could not make adjustments, I think that's pretty awful as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, they should have started having a little bit more protection for him. That's a great point. Zach?
Yeah, I thought the bad was just the entire Titans offense. I mean, Tannehill looked bad. Well, I put him in the ugly category too.
Oh, we'll get there.
But I mean, Derrick Henry, he ran pretty good, but obviously coming off an injury, you can't give him 20 touches, or maybe you can, I guess, if you're the Titans. But it just, nothing was clicking right other than AJ Brown. He kind of stood out above everybody else. But I feel like they could have really utilized more weapons on that team, but just wasn't going to happen this year. That whole offense was just off for the majority of the year anyway.
Yeah, it was. And that's why I go into my bad was the fact that Henry, they kind of relied on Henry over Foreman, and Foreman had, what do I have here? He was 4 for 66 yards. He was way more explosive than Henry. Even if you take that 145-yard run out, he was averaging 7 yards a carry without that run. So he was just way more explosive. I felt like, not that you couldn't give Henry the ball. I understand having him out there is he's going to draw attention. You know, the play action is going to be maybe a little more effective with Henry. But the fact that Foreman only had 4 carries and in a close game as well, the game was super close, and you just give 20 to Henry and 4 to Foreman. I didn't quite get that. I felt like that was a bad game plan by Vrabel, and he should have definitely used Foreman more for that offense.
Right. And like you're saying, Ryan, you almost go with the hot hand. You should be going with the hot hand. I mean, yeah, Henry's probably one of the best ever, but coming off an injury at his first game action in however many weeks it's been, and Foreman looked good. He looked good compared to Henry for those couple that he got. So I'm with you on that. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of an even split, at least for the first game back.
Yeah, that's the way I felt. So I don't know. I felt like the Titans really dropped the ball here, which we'll get into the main Titan. I'm sure we all have the main Titan as our ugly. You guys ready to move on then to our next? Okay, let's go and do it.
The ugly. Ew!
Okay, so let me just hit my ugly real quick. I'm pretty sure most of us, Ryan Tannehill shows up in the worst way. He was there, unfortunately, and his presence was felt on that team. He only had 9 incompletions, which wasn't really that bad. The bad was the 3 interceptions, and he had a QBR of 10. He was just bad, making bad decisions. The first play of the game, we're going to talk about coaching when we talk about our final thoughts, in my opinion. One of the things I didn't understand, but you can't force the ball in like that, especially. And then the last pass too, you force it into your 3rd string wide receiver. Like, what are we doing here? I don't know. I've seen Tannehill, and this is why he's not like a top 15. Well, he's probably a top 15, but like a top 12 quarterback. He's just not there. Is because in these situations, he seems to come up short a lot. So I have him as my ugly. What about you, Jake? Who's your ugly?
It is the entire offense. So I put that as my ugly, because Tannehill's not elite, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what your expectations are? He threw 3 picks, but I think 2 of those were tipped or, deflected off of hands. So, it's not like he was just hitting D-backs in the numbers. But the whole offense didn't show up, and the coaching of the offense, they had 27 rushes and 24 passes. Well, after your second interception, and they averaged 5.2 yards a carry. So, I mean, granted, you had the one long 45-yarder in there. I don't know what Henry's longest one was, 20 yards or something like that. I think you got to keep pounding the rock and wear that defense down. So yes, Tannehill performed poorly, but the whole offensive scheme, just really nobody showed up. I mean, AJ Brown, decent, he had 105 catches for 105 yards. So I'll give him a pass. But yeah, just the whole offense was ugly.
Yeah, 142 yards. I'll just correct you there. No, even better. yeah. No, I just wanted to make sure we got that right.
Throw the ball to that guy. He's averaging almost 30 yards a pass.
right. No, I actually agree with you. This was a game where Ryan Tannehill should have probably threw the ball like 15 times. Right. That's the way I felt. And Foreman should have got those, whatever 10 times you drop back to pass. What about you, Zach? What was your ugly?
Yeah, Tannehill was the uglier part of that offense, in my opinion. Like Jake said, a couple of those picks weren't his problem, but you got to rely on the guys you got, and I think they didn't rely on that running game nearly enough as they should have. Between the hot hand of Foreman and Henry as the scare tactic, you should have just wore them down. Obviously, low scoring game anyway, so you just keep wearing them out, and eventually Henry breaks a big one or Foreman breaks a big one, and you control the ball in the time of possession, which just didn't seem to happen for them. And yeah, the only highlight was AJ Brown having those couple big catches. And if not for that, the Titans numbers would be real ugly. So, kind of skews it a little bit more towards the positive side, but really was just ugly all around.
Yeah, I agree. Zach. I'm sorry, man. Nate, what about you?
Yeah, I don't really have a ton to add. It's just it's frustrating watching Tannehill because I feel like he has potential. He's kind of mobile. He had a couple really good throws to AJ Brown. You can see that there's a good quarterback in there. It's just sometimes his brain doesn't do what he should be doing. So it's frustrating to watch. He definitely is the ugly for me too.
Yeah, I think like he's one of those quarterbacks where you just got to see what kind of game he's having and then adjust your game plan accordingly. Like if he's starting to throw the ball, like I know one for sure was like so one was tipped, which was like a bubble screen that which we'll talk about. They should have never called that play to begin with, and that's where I blame coaching. The other one that was tipped, it was thrown into, I think it was the last one, right, where he threw it into basically the third string wide receiver. Like you shouldn't be doing that. That's my thing. Is like in that moment you have AJ Brown. That's where you should go with the football. That's how I feel anyway. And
Or
I don't know.
a guy named Julio Jones. You may have heard of him.
Or,
I don't know.
yeah, or Julio Jones. Exactly. Shannon, what's your ugly?
Yeah, I again don't have a whole lot to add. I don't think with Jacob, I don't think it was all Ryan Tannehill's fault on those interceptions. They bounced off of guys, and so I don't put that on the quarterback. I think it was more so they looked flat in the play calling. I believe it was in the fourth quarter. I think it was 3rd and 1, and you would expect Henry to get the ball, and then I don't know what they did, but the announcers even talked about it, that I don't know if they tried a quarterback sneak and then it didn't work. And then they finally went for it on 4th and 1 and gave the ball to Henry and it didn't work. I just thought that it wasn't schemed. They didn't game plan very well. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to add other than that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Actually, I know what you're talking about because I was going to actually bring that up when we get to our final thoughts. So we'll talk a little bit more about that sequence. So let's get into that. Let's get into our final thoughts. So I'll just open this up. So if you have a point, just throw your hand. Any final thoughts on the game? Go ahead, Jake.
3rd down, Tennessee Titans, 1 for 8.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good final thought.
1 for 8, you lose football games. I'm sorry. That's just
yeah. Yeah. I put for mine. This is why. Oh, hold on. Oops. I pressed it one too many times. We're gonna get this back up. Okay, for mine, I went Vrabel played chess instead of checkers. I think the game plan was very obvious here, and he tried to outsmart him, and he basically outsmart himself. That play call you're talking about, Shannon, where they did like an RPO and then Tannehill, like I thought it was a smart like setup, like you spread the field out and you have Henry in the backfield, and then like you just I thought they were just going to hand it up to the middle. If you watch that play unfold, he would have got that yard. But and then the very next play, they called the very play that the Bengals knew they were going to call, which is basically our form. I'm going to throw Henry up the middle. Didn't make any sense to me. I was like, now you call the play you should have probably called on 3rd down, and you call on 4th down, and now everybody knows you're going to do it. So that was silly. The other play I didn't understand was Foreman gets that 45-yard run right up the middle. So I think it was 16-16 at that point too. And then that's when they call that bubble screen where Tannehill threw an interception because the corner made a really good play. He tipped the ball to himself basically and picked it off. But I'm like, why would you throw the ball in that situation? Just run it. Just run the ball there. And then it goes back to the Henry. You give him more carries than Foreman. That he shouldn't have got more carries than Foreman, but it should have been more balanced in my opinion, because Foreman was way more explosive. So anyway, I just felt he was sort of out coached and maybe even out coached by himself in this game more so than even Zach Taylor. So that's my final thoughts on the game. Go ahead, Shannon.
So my final thought is, and we'll talk, this goes with the next game too, but the number 1 seed is almost a disadvantage, I think, because Tennessee just didn't look sharp, and the teams that played last weekend looked better. And Henry looks slower. He didn't look like he had the burst that he had. And coming back after not playing since week 8, I just think to me, that was a big factor in the game as well.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I was right along with Jan's thought. It's just that week, that bye, we all thought at the beginning it was going to be, oh yes, all these guys are going to get healed up. We might get Henry back. And then it's that rust that really takes an impact on these teams after that bye week. I don't know what it is about it. You just never look good after coming off a bye. And these two teams especially didn't, the Packers and the Titans. But yeah, it was ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
And a lot of those thoughts. So I worked in Nashville today, so I got to hear all of these thoughts from folks. And Ryan, you summed it up so well with what everybody was saying. Is on third down, you try quarterback sneak with Tannehill, and then on fourth down, everybody on the planet knows you're going to go to Derrick Henry, and you just got stuffed both of them. That was the number one comment I heard today, was that specific sequence. How angry the fan base is with that.
Yeah. He was just trying to be. I felt like a lot of coaches this weekend though were just trying to be too cute too. Like there were just a lot of things that were being called. I was like, what are we doing here? But anyway. Anything else? We good to go? Move on? Okay, let's move on. I'm sure everyone's excited about getting to this game, so let's do it. Well, I hope you enjoyed us doing the great, the good, the bad, and the ugly when it came to this game. What was your great, good, bad, and ugly when it came to this particular matchup of the NFL divisional round? Let us know in the comments below. Like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for listening. And if you'd like to listen to the rest of the podcast, the link will be down below along with some other podcasts. Thanks again for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you guys soon.